Hello VN fans, how the ruddy hell you doing? Now today we've got a review of Loopers, a game from Key. Wow, very exciting. This review was written by our main man, Miguel Mary, so go follow him on Twitter with the links in the description. Let's see what he thinks of this exciting visual novel. Key and Ryukishi Zero Nana are two names that will certainly ring a bell to most VN aficionados. They are known for producing some of the highest, most acclaimed visual novels ever. So when people heard that the two of them would be collaborating to bring us a brand new title, hype quickly built up. This isn't the first time they have worked together though, as Ryukishi already wrote content for Key's Rewrite back in 2011. It has been more than 10 years since then, and after the announcement of the official English translation, quite a few curious eyes have now landed on Loopers, a brand new kinetic visual novel and the most recent addition to the Switch's ever-growing visual novel library. Expectations are certainly high, but can this game live up to the reputation and legacy of its creators, or will it be enough to drive you loopy? The main story begins with our protagonist Tyler roaming the night streets hunting for a treasure. Ever since he was a kid, he's been obsessed with searching and finding hidden objects, which eventually evolved into his main hobby of geocaching, or as this game refers to it, geo-hunting. The way this works is someone will hide something in the city of little monetary value, then mark it and send it to a GPS-based app where others can join and try to find it themselves. Just as Tyler is beginning to lose hope, he meets Hilda and Leona, a couple of old schoolmates of his. They join in the nocturnal hunt and reach the park where the item was hiding. There, Hilda sees a mysterious and ghostly looking girl who vanishes in front of her eyes. She tries to think nothing of it and moves on, but after parting ways with Tyler, things begin to get eerier. Just as the two of them are having a friendly chat, Leona suddenly snaps at her and then collapses on the ground. Hilda thinks her friend is simply messing with her, that it's nothing more than a prank in poor taste, and leaves her behind. When she hears the sound of sirens, she realizes there's something wrong going on and runs back, where she will see Leona being carried into an ambulance. On the other hand, Tyler, hearing the commotion in the distance, sees a suspicious looking man cross his path. He tries to chase him, but a little girl drop kicks him from behind, stopping his pursuit. Both of them go back to their respective houses, hoping that next morning will bring normalcy back. But it is then when they realize something isn't right. The date didn't change. This isn't just their smartphones not working properly, as everywhere they look they seem to be the only ones experiencing this situation. When they go to visit Leona at the hospital, she was brought too. Tyler recognizes the suspicious looking man he saw the previous day, so he tries to chase him once again. Midway, he meets the little girl who goes by Mia for a second time, but this time she brings both of them to their apparent base of operations. There they are told they are now trapped in an infinite time loop, forced to repeat the same day over and over. Incredulous, both of them leave, but after seeing that this was all true, they go back to the place where they are now welcome to become part of the Loopers, a group of people who are also going through this exact same bizarre phenomena. The game tries its best to present members of the Loopers as an interesting and diverse cast, but the results end up being a mixed bag. Starting with Tyler, the main protagonist, he is an overly energetic and outgoing character. However, his personality can be a little bit overbearing due to him constantly expressing this energy through his main hobby, geo-hunting. Actually, calling it a hobby might not be the most accurate word, as it feels closer to an almost unhealthy obsession. Hilda and Leona, on the other hand, fare a lot better. They have a nicely contrasting dynamic between the two, and their chapter arc was indeed enjoyable. I do wish they had more screen time though, as it occasionally feels like the story forgets about their existence. Then there's Simon, the at first suspicious looking man. He takes the role of the leader within the group. He isn't a standout character by any means, but his methodical and calm personality works well to complement the liveliness of the other members. The main star of the game, of course, is Mia, the main girl. She is the one with the better character development out of all, and clearly the main focus of the story. That being said, at first her change from being apathetic to enthusiastic feels slightly abrupt, with maybe not enough build-up to make it fully believable. But it is easy to forgive thanks to how likable she always comes across. On the other side of the quality spectrum, there's the three supporting characters, which, truth be told, are the weakest part of the entire game. They are completely one-dimensional, so when their supposed character development arrives, it just feels void of any sort of depth. This is mostly due to the game never really showing any scene where they are at their lowest. It just asks you to believe at face value that they are somewhat mentally strained. This also diminishes the impact of some scenes in the later acts where the game tries to hammer the group dynamics as a cohesive team, and it just falls flat because half of them are people you barely care about. Fortunately, this trio are also sub-characters, so most of my complaints towards them were easily overshadowed by Mia's charm. As previously stated, this is a kinetic visual novel, which means there are no choices whatsoever. It is a very straightforward story, both in its design as well as its narrative, by which I mean it's always clear what the plot is trying to convey at all times. In this regard, it is a visual novel with really strong pacing, as even its surprisingly abundant slice of life scenes don't feel like sluggish padding. However, this focus on slice of life is something that might disappoint quite a few people going into this game, expecting to see the type of narrative characteristic of Ryukishiki. There's really not many horror elements in this story. In fact, the ghostly apparition at the beginning is pretty much where the horror peaks, which is to say that there's barely any to speak of. Similarly, for the first 2/3 of the game, the main mystery behind the looping incident is left in the background in favor of geo-hunting, which more or less ended up being the central theme of the story. In a way, one could consider this to be a staple of key narratives, giving a completely ordinary activity weight and importance to remark the value of mundanity that's often taken for granted. It's just that this constant repetition turns what could be a solid plot device into some sort of overly convenient deus ex machina, capable of solving everyone's mental burdens. Admittedly, there are scenes where it does work and feels convincing, but some variety would have been appreciated. It's in fact the third act when things unsurprisingly begin to pick up. This is the point where the story entirely surrounds Mia, and as the better fleshed out character that she is, her presence considerably raises the overall quality of the closing act. It all feels properly set up to deliver a satisfying conclusion. That being said, even if this finale is quite enjoyable on its own, the main plot beats are fairly predictable, and it's easy to see what's coming right down to the ending itself. This isn't a narrative that takes any major risks, as it likes to play it safe. Nonetheless, be it a unique plot or not, at the end of the day, what works, works. So as cliche as it might occasionally be, I would hardly consider it to be a negative. One simply can't deny that this is a carefully constructed narrative with solid pacing as well as an engaging premise, which is ultimately what truly matters. Regardless of how one may feel about the story, if there's something I'm sure everyone will agree on is how gorgeous this game is to look at. The art and character designs were done by Kei Motozuki, and she did an absolutely stellar job bringing these characters to life. I am a big fan of her use of colour and how the sprites use a rather toned down colour palette in contrast of the vivid backgrounds. The sprites also show a wide range of emotions, especially Mia, being expressive while still retaining a sense of subtlety. The only caveat is that they only have a single pose, but that's honestly easy to overlook when artistic quality is so high. In fact, I only realized this now after writing the review. As far as voice acting, I thought it was good overall. However, there's one thing you should know before going into this game. These characters, they like to shout, often and loud. If you have played Summer Pockets, you might already be used to this, but for those coming from Clannad or another similar more subdued key visual novel, this might catch you off guard. You are going to be fiddling with the volume buttons, wishing that there was some way to limit the voice's max volume in the options. You technically can lower their volume in the options menu, but that will make the quieter scenes hard to hear. It's something that one can get used to, but keep in mind that things might get tense for your eardrums. Now this is available digitally and physically as well, but that physical version is only available in Japan. But hang on a minute, it does have English. So if you want a physical copy, you want to keep it forever, or maybe you want to sell it on after you've finished, maybe you're a collector, you care about preservation, whatever your raison d'etre is, that's not even the right phrase, but I'm going with it, then check the links in the description and the pinned comment. If you click those links and you buy this physical version, then you also support VN Paradise at the same time. And we thank you ever so much for your support. Remember, this physical version is exclusive to Japan, but does have English and plays on all Nintendo Switches. Overall, does Loopers live up to the key Ryukishi combo hype? No, it doesn't. Does that mean it's bad or even a mediocre game? Absolutely not. This is the type of VN you enjoy for a couple or more afternoons and then move on. It's not a revolutionary narrative by any means, but at the same time, it doesn't need to be. Even taking its weaker aspects in, there's still a lot of praise here. The tight pacing, the characterization of Mia, the gorgeous art style. In fact, I would say the visuals alone are worth the price tag. A price tag that, if I might add, is surprisingly reasonable and well worth keeping in consideration when discussing this game. one shouldn't go into Lupus expecting it to be the next Higurashi or Umineko. In fact, it might be better to forget Ryukishi was even involved with this and go with an open and neutral viewpoint. Because for what the game actually is, there's really nothing majorly wrong with it. It's just like there's nothing overly majorly remarkable about it either. A 7 out of 10. Alright, many thanks to Marion for writing this review of Lupus. Go check him out on Twitter with the link in the description. If you want to order this physically yourself, then consider using the links below in the description and pinned comment, as that also supports us massively so. Be sure to check out some of our other content. We got a lot of reviews, we got a lot of features, something that every visual novel fan will enjoy.